I'm a
grow
fossil.
old, they all get fat. Says the guy, have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow, says the guy who's never got laid.
You may already be tired of the Piers Morgan debacle, but I promise you that you'll hear a fresh new perspective by the end of this video.
Based.
Nick Fuentes' interview with Piers Morgan is less a clash of ideologies than it is a generational divide. On one end, we've got a clueless boomer like Piers Morgan who operates in his Mr. Sod's free liberal boomer false reality, who thinks he's a tough man, and on the other, we've got a person who is ironic and sarcastic, but nonetheless living in reality, both in terms of being culturally up-to-date with the latest code of communications and also with respect to empirical observation. While Piers Morgan started the interview with a setup trying to psychoanalyze Nick's evil racism, he quickly crumbled when the topic of discussion jumped to crime rates per capita.
Okay.
Do you know what per capita means? Do you know proportionality? There are more black people proportionally that engage in violent crime or are involved in gangs, especially in these major cities, than there are white people that are school shooters compared to the entire white population. And everybody understands that.
Two-thirds of mass shootings at school perpetrated by white people.
But what proportion of white men commit school shootings? That's the question.
I've just told you. It's 60 to 65% of school shootings by white people.
You're telling me what proportion of school shootings are committed by white people. I'm saying what proportion of white people have committed school shootings. Are you playing dumb or are you just not that smart?
What difference does that make
to
the children lying dead on the ground?
Piers Morgan's tactic was to deliver a blow to Nick's credibility. In his mind, and partially that's true, Nick has been handed softball questions by Tucker Carlson, and the general consensus among Nick's hateful followers is that Nick was never ever properly challenged in his entire life. And so Piers Morgan, in their imagination, is the first person to really ask Nick difficult questions. Everyone else was compromised. They were promoting Nick out of their own hidden agenda because they were evil and paid by Qatari government. But Piers Morgan is going to actually be the hero. A citizen journalist who is going to put Nick in his incel cave, expose him as an evil racist anti-Semite and douchebag misogynist, and cause all of his Zoomer audience to abandon him immediately.
Basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment.
Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool.
Do you regret saying that?
Saying a fact? No, that's absolutely true.
You think Hitler was very fucking cool?
Yes, I do.
One of them.
And I'm tired of pretending he's not.
Well,
to be honest.
This is the problem, you see. It's a bit like when you just say, I'm a racist. You're a racist who thinks Hitler's cool, but you're not anti-Semitic. If you're a Jewish person watching this, what are they thinking? I'll tell you what they're thinking, because I've got a friend of mine called Daniel Finkelstein.
You see, our generation grew up on MLK's universalism, the 1960s student protests, 1984 Karl Popper, and the TV-filtered news channels. We didn't grow up on free informational landscape, but a fallen social order, helping ourselves with irony, dark comedy, playing video games, and obsessing over looks maxing edits and aura. No. Oh wait, we did. This is why we're able to recognize certain speech patterns and determine with ease when someone is being sarcastic, as opposed to Piers Morgan and Dr. Phil.
How many people do you think died in the Holocaust? How many Jewish people?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the number? 6 million, something like that.
So you
8 million?
You concede that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust?
Possibly more. Possibly, we're discovering all the time. So it could maybe even be more than that.
What's interesting to me is that you appear to now concede that, which may be news to a lot of your regular viewers who have constantly heard you quibble with the number of Jews who died in the Holocaust. And for the record, just to confirm what I think you told me, you do now accept that at least 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust?
Well, no, I said it could even be higher than
well,
that.
it could be higher. That is
I think
true.
it's at least.
But you
I think you're
accept
right.
at least.
It is at least. Oh, it's at least 6 million. But
Okay.
it could be 100
well,
times
people
more
are going
than
to be
that.
okay.
The Holocaust, and you got him to agree that actually the Holocaust was real and that he said even more than 6 million people. And there were much more than 6 million people.
Consider the Holocaust portion of the segment. Nick Fuentes was doing a reductio ad absurdum as he was laughing his ass off, while Piers Morgan thought that he managed to score a meaningful concession from Nick, since if Nick is saying that there were 100 times as many Jews who died in the Holocaust, he is dead serious and actually believes this. Funny enough, it took Piers a couple of days and a personal explanation from Glenn Greenwald to realize that Nick's actual point was to comment on the ridiculous inflation of Holocaust survivors that happened in the last few decades.
He seemed to try and take a more moderate position, which was, yes, I believe 6 million Jews were killed, maybe more. Whether he meant that or whether he was being some sort of satirical
He was
thing.
satirizing you. He was satirizing that.
That's what I now believe was probably happening. Yeah. So
Piers might have gotten the clue had he lived the same lived experiences as our generation, but because he is a clueless boomer, this and many other moments in the interview went off his radar.
I have got into that before
You
in
got
America.
a knife problem. You got sword problems.
We have problems
You
with
have Aladdin.
And he's
Well,
also
you keep interrupting me. You're very rude. Are you black?
I
Because you're being very
apologise.
rude by
I
interrupting me right
apologise
now.
to you.
I'm giving you a hard time, but I
okay, you're
do
not
want to
giving me a
finish
hard
my
time.
point. That's the
Wow.
thing, though. You boomers, it's
Do you think
always
you're an
get
expert
laid,
in women,
free love.
given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. This, you're talking about empathy, and your kids are empathetic, and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust, and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem.
Now, the mark of the debate was, of course, the arrival of none other than this guy, whose entire purpose was to moralistically plug his book on Jewish victimhood a moment after Piers Morgan announced that no Jew ever weaponizes their victimhood for personal and collective gain.
I don't know any right-minded person who believes that Jewish people weaponized the Holocaust for their own personal get-out-of-jail-free or whatever you called it.
You don't know anyone that does that?
A few moments later.
Because I've got a friend of mine called Danny Finkelstein. But let's just take what Danny said here.
Hi Piers, it's Danny Finkelstein here. As you're interviewing Nick Fuentes, you might try suggesting to him that he reads my book, Hitler, Stalin, Mum and Dad. It's called, since he says he's on Team Hitler, you might like to ask him about the fact that Hitler arrested my mum, tried to starve my mum to death. So you might ask him whether he wouldn't rather be on Team Mum rather than Team Hitler. So perhaps he might like to reconsider his joke.
See, that's the reality of your jokes. And what do you mean by Hitler is very fucking cool? Because I think he's very fucking a monster.
Okay. That's a clip. I think he's very fucking a monster. Do you hear yourself?
Yeah,
I mean,
do.
can we all grow up?
I do.
Can we all grow
He
up?
murdered.
As you could imagine, this became a widespread meme, and after this appearance, people started Googling who the hell this Daniel Finkelstein was, only to be completely vindicated on all the stereotypes. Because not only did he use and generate Jewish victimhood narratives, he is also lectured white people on their speech and their identity in the Times. And guess what? Like every other establishment Jew, he managed to do this while being a Jewish Zionist who supports Nick Fuentes' policies but for Israel.
They have my politics. In Israel, they want to maintain a Jewish majority. If they had it their way, it would only be Jewish people. They're fighting like hell so that Jewish people can have as much territory, a Jewish state. They can be proudly Jewish in their own land. Whereas in America, we are being besieged by 10 million illegal immigrants in 4 years. And then whites and Christians are going to be the minority.
But guess what? It gets even worse after the interview. He recently affirmed that multiculturalism was good in response to a conservative British nationalist criticizing it, and then he collaborated with a BIPOC communist, Ash Sarkar.
So final thing I would say, Nick Fuentes thinks that Hitler was cool, but I do remind him Hitler ultimately lost and had to shoot himself. So Nick Fuentes should understand that he thinks he's on a winner, but ultimately you discover he isn't.
Well, you're nicer than me, I'd say follow your leader.
before flipping 180 degrees 2 days later after there was another anti-Jewish shooting committed by the forces of multiculturalism in Australia. Now suddenly he doesn't feel safe, yet he felt perfectly safe when grooming gangs were raping white women and replacing white people from positions of authority. That certainly didn't touch his people personally, and funny enough, after receiving numerous backlash, he clownishly affirmed that he now supports a Christian British state like he supports Israel, so that there is no contradiction, thereby completely backpedaling on his previous liberal and secular beliefs and reinventing himself as the new Yoram Hazani. And finally, after all of that, he used his Jewish privilege to land himself another article at the Times in which he proved once again that he hasn't learned a thing. Update for 22nd of December. Now he's saying that Jews and Muslims must unite against white advocates like Nick Fuentes, having flipped the third time in this month.
A conspiracy theory that thinks that the United States has been manipulated into foreign wars by a small elite, as it happens Jewish, is one that sort of denies the whole process of liberal democracy, and it might do the same in this country. And it's also that kind of disrespect for one ethnic group will apply to others, even if they don't like Jews. So for Muslims who don't like, some of whom don't like Jews, a proportion of whom don't like Jews, this will visit them, probably has visited them. And so people like Nick Fuentes, who are coming for me, are coming for all of you.
And the broader commentary on this is that usually younger people are supposed to learn from older ones, but the conventional morality and the politics of non-Zoomers wasn't formed as a result of access to free unfiltered information, and so what they're saying could as easily be dismissed as the opinion of those who live under authoritarian regimes. We should probably do the same thing for boomers who grew up on watching TV. And sure, Generation Z may be just growing up, but we've been exposed to much more political information than boomers have been in their entire lives. And most importantly, the political information that Zoomers were exposed to was heterogeneous and unfiltered, whereas boomers have only heard 1 or 2 or 3 points in their entire lives. Anti-communism, liberalism, anti-wokeism, they're not particularly creative. We've seen how the liberals have been saying the exact same thing for years as the country got progressively worse, and so we have adopted a post-racist moral framework which is willing to work with reality. For years, liberals have repeated the same egalitarian mantras even as the country progressively got worse, prompting us to embrace a post-racist moral framework, one that confronts with reality rather than denying it and demanding everyone to censor the unbelievers. Sorry, Piers, but the guilt tripping is just not going to be effective anymore. We're different.
I'm an iconoclast. The Holocaust is not my religion, and it is treated like a religion. It is treated like a religion with dogma, with blasphemy laws, and that secular religion says, and you say that's a crock of shit. It's intentional. It's called The Open Society by Karl Popper. It's by these architects of the liberal order after World War II. They got together and they said, how can we make sure that Hitler never happens? How can we make sure that totalitarianism never happens again? And they came up with the consensus, which is that we need to take down nations, religions, fathers, the authoritarian personality. We need to be empathetic and altruistic. We need to be diverse and pluralistic. And that experiment isn't working. And I'll tell you the truth. Right now, and you can laugh at this, you can scoff at this, our people are being genocided in our country. 50% of the live births in the United Kingdom and in the United States are non-white. In 100 years, my ancestors, your kids who are so empathetic and compassionate, they're going to be a minority. They're going to be a minority in maybe a Muslim country, an Indian country, an Hispanic country. And these Jewish people that are 100 years old talking about my grandparents and the Holocaust, they don't care about that. Actually, they like to see it. At the SPLC, they're literally counting down the days until whites are a minority in America. So forgive me if I don't believe them when they talk about compassion. There's a genocide going on right now. It's not against...
And when you try to challenge the liberal cosmopolitan position head on, no liberal boomer seems to be able to defend them. Piers couldn't find a proper rebuttal other than questioning Nick, oh, how many Christians are there in the world versus how many Jews? After Nick replies, Piers Morgan comes back with,
So with a straight face, you're going to tell me the world is being overrun by the Jewry, by 15 million people, when there are over 1 billion Christians. There is a genocide of Christians like poor old Nick Fuentes going on at the hands of these 15 million Jews. Really?
See, this attitude is why you're losing. When you say
Who am I losing to?
white people,
Who
these
am I
poor
losing
old
to?
white people.
Who am I losing to?
You're seeing it, mass migration. Oh, you're losing to me. We are losing as a civilization of mass migration. And here's the difference.
obviously, I don't need to explain to you what the hell is wrong with this reply. Piers is simply unable to properly engage with what Nick just said. If I was a Jewish advocate, I would have certainly come up with a much stronger rebuttal to Nick than what was said. And that's because I was confronted with it and I thought about it a lot, while Piers is definitely hearing it for the first time, which is why he fumbles so easily. And so the core lesson from this encounter is that Fuentes, who is the face and voice of Generation Z, faces no genuine intellectual rival in contemporary debates.
See you for what you are. I think we've got a lot nearer to what the real Nick Fuentes is in the last 2 hours than we probably have seen from your other recent interviews. Would you agree?
No, I mean, the clip thing, we've done the clip thing. We've all seen the clip show. Everyone's seen the clips. You think you're the first one to do the ADL rap sheet. So here you said this, and then here you said that. I've been playing that game for 10 years. So this is honestly more of the same, to tell you the truth.
Piers Morgan is just another tabloid journalist who is not able to effectively challenge Nick, only skyrocket him further, because frankly, Piers is too stubborn to understand half of the arguments. Establishment figures, whether liberal like Piers Morgan or conservative like Ben Shapiro, avoid direct confrontation with Fuentes because the underlying struggle is about power, and they recognize that their ideological positions, which are rooted in contradicting assumptions, cannot withstand rigorous, honest scrutiny against Fuentes' coherent post-racist framework.